You've come to this video because you would like to hear about coming to Barbados, and I'm here to provide you 10 top tips for first time traveling to this beautiful country. So I will run through the accommodation, currency, flights, time of year to travel to Barbados, activities to do here, vehicles traveling around Barbados, the locals, internet data, and the island landscape. So at number one, we have accommodation. You're obviously looking to book, but how would you like to live in Barbados? Well, firstly, you have hotels, and I'm going to mix resorts into this as well. The hotels and resorts you can book as self-catering, full board or half board. It's completely up to you and how your family would like to live. So there will be restaurants in some of these places. However, my recommendation is going out into the city or the beaches to get the local food, and it's absolutely amazing. For me and my family, we chose to go for Airbnb. This meant that we had a lovely 3-bedroom house in Oystons. We were able to get this through Airbnb, but we was also able to get a pool and jacuzzi that comes along with it, and this was split across the 4 of us. Finally, you also may be a Bayesian who lives in another country. For myself, I am half Bayesian and half Jamaican, but we do have some family here. However, there's not enough rooms for us to all go stay with them. So if you do have family here and maybe it's just 1 or 2 of you, you could possibly save some money by staying with your family. Okay, so we're on to number 2, which is Bayesian currency versus US currency. So they're both known as dollars here. The big difference is that the Bayesian dollar is actually made of plastic and the American dollars are still in their paper form. So when you want to pay in Bayesian dollars versus US dollars, I would definitely recommend asking the person who you're trying to pay, is it Bayesian dollars or US dollars? Either way, they're happy to change it around. However, just make sure you know which one you're paying for and how much it costs. You can also ask them to compare. Personally, I would have said if I was to come here again, I would have just bought Bayesian dollars. So it's at a 2-to-1 ratio. If you had 20 Bayesian dollars, this would equal 10 US dollars. I think it's just important to remember this, just because when you're going into the shops and they say this costs 80 Bayesian dollars, you will know what it costs in the equivalent for US dollars. The other thing that I'd like to bring up is tipping. So in some countries across the world, tipping is a normal thing. This isn't the case in the UK. However, I just want to state that in Barbados, it is important that you do tip the locals. They are working very hard in the heat, and this is an expensive country. So if you're able to, then please do tip the locals, especially those doing tours or those who are working in the restaurants. I'm sure they would appreciate it. So flights will vary in cost. The main thing here is to complete the immigrant form. You may be wondering what this is, but when you fly into Barbados through British Airways, they send you an email titled "Only 3 days left to go," and it will have a pre-flight check link. And if you go down the page, you'll be able to see the electronic travel authorization, or ETA. If you're coming from England, you won't need a visa, depending on the length of time, of course. However, you will definitely need to fill out what they call the travel form, also known as the immigrant form. When you click on the link, it just lets the country know how long you are here for, what you are carrying with you. So now we're on to the time of year, and there are 3 times of year that you could be traveling to Barbados. The first one being in November, and in November it is a time where volunteers come over to Barbados and help with safely releasing the turtles into the sea. However, they are being released constantly as they hatch all year round, but this is known as the period of time that people tend to go. The second time that people come here is from December to January, so Christmas time all the way through to New Year's, and that's personally when I've been out here, and I have to say they do celebrate it quite a bit here. There's a lot of church events going on. You've got the Christmas trees out, you've got them on the water as well. And New Year's, you tend to spend out on the beach watching the fireworks, and it's absolutely beautiful. Can't recommend enough. The final time of year is crop over. You may be wondering, what is Crop Over? Well, Crop Over is a festival that takes place over 3 months from June through to August. The main dates for Crop Over are the last Friday of July to the first Monday of August, which has a massive event and carnival going on. The Crop Over festival dates back to the plantation era and was a big, extravagant celebration organised on the plantations to mark the end of the harvest. A lot of people come during these months. However, booking flights during this time will be one of the most expensive, looking at probably a minimum of £1,000, or this could be at the time $1,200. So I would suggest looking at when would be best for you. Personally, coming in December to January, it was amazing. So activities, there are a ton of activities on the island, and I'm sure you want to do all of them. For me, in 2 weeks, it was hard to fit everything in one go. However, there is a large list that I would like to share with you. You have access to activities like snorkeling, open glass boating, cruising, Pebble Beach horse visits, Oyston's Friday night fish fry, the Wildlife Reserve, Barbados Museum, Botanical Gardens, Harrison's Cave, and honestly, the list goes on. The best way to find out information is through some more research. However, if you may be lazy, then you can check down in the description. I love looking at things to do when I go to different places. So I put links down in the description just so that you can be able to check for things fast. You may also want to have a look for yourself. As I said, you could research. A couple of sites that I would suggest, and you may have already looked at, is Viator or TripAdvisor. How do you travel around the island? There are a number of things that you can do to get across the island, and I'll run through with you the different types of vehicle. The first vehicle you have is the ZR, which is a local transport or regular bus that you can have access to for $3.50. That's Bayesian. You also have blue buses, which require the exact amount of change, and finally the yellow buses, which will give you the exact change. The last thing that I would like to talk about is accessibility. So if you are someone with limited movement, or for example has a wheelchair and needs access in a different kind of way, then I would personally suggest getting your own car, as getting on things like the ZR or the ZM may be very difficult and can take a lot of time, and it's not really catered to people with that sort of need. So hiring a car would be my best course of action here. I would suggest speaking to the locals. They are absolutely lovely, very kind and very helpful. They will be the best people here to tell you about finding the best spots for food, maybe even activities that you wouldn't have thought of, and just generally be able to provide you with information. So I would consider interacting with them a lot if you can, even the people if they're working in your hotels or in the restaurants or as tour guides. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. There is 2 ways to get internet data here if you're coming from another country. And the first one would be getting a SIM as soon as you get off the plane. However, if you're coming at night, there may not be shops open. The second one is getting an electronic SIM. So that's what I've personally gone for, and that's what I would personally suggest. So I'm going to run through you the 2 different types of electronic SIMs that I use, and I did this by downloading 2 different apps. First app was Airalo, and the second one was Nomad. Both were different in cost, and I'll run through the different apps. Nomad cost me £35 for 5 gigabytes for 30 days, versus Airalo, which you could get 1 gigabyte for $10 for 7 days. There are different prices for different countries and different amount of days. Both apps have different ways of working, and I'll just quickly share with you. I've added in the description below links to the apps and a way of getting $3 off of each app on your first purchase or your second purchase, depending on the app. With Airalo, you can get $3 off your first purchase to the app, as well as a referral code that you can put in so that you can get a discount off your first purchase. As for Nomad, you can get £2.36 off of any data plan, which equates to $3. This may not be much, but every little helps. So please, again, check down the description below and you'll be able to get a link to the app, as well as see what the referral code is. Alright, we have made it. If you're still here watching, you have made it to number 10. So at number 10, we have the landscape. And I just want to remind you that we all know Barbados is an absolutely beautiful country. Beautiful scenery, gorgeous beaches. So my top tip at number 10 would actually be keep the island the way that you found it. Please make sure that you're keeping the public spaces and the private ones the way that you have found them. The reason why I say this is because we need to preserve the island the way that it is for not only the locals but the actual wildlife that live here. And with that said, that brings us to the end of our 10 top tips for first timers coming to Barbados. If you are coming from Barbados or if you've already been here before, please put down in the comments in the description what was the best part, where did you come from, and if you have any other top tips for people visiting, I'm sure we'd all love to hear it. Finally, I'd just like to say thank you for watching the whole video. If you liked it, please like, comment and subscribe, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.